महाकायं तप्तकाञ्चनसन्निभं लम्बोदरं विशालाक्षं वन्देऽहं गणनायकं वन्देऽहं गणनायकम्। सुन्दरमुख श्री गजानना सुन्दरमुख श्री गजानना सुन्दरमुख श्री गजानना सुन्दरमुख श्री गजानना एकदन्त श्री गजानना एकदन्त श्री गजानना एकदन्त श्री गजानना एकदन्त श्री गजानना सुन्दरमुख श्री गजानना सुन्दरमुख श्री गजानना प्रथम नमामि गजानना प्रथम नमामि गजानना प्रथम नमामि गजानना प्रथम नमामि गजानना ऋषिमुनिवन्दित गजानना ऋषिमुनिवन्दित गजानना ऋषिमुनिवन्दित गजानना ऋषिमुनिवन्दित गजानना सुन्दरमुख श्री गजानना सुन्दरमुख श्री गजानना एकदन्त श्री गजानना एकदन्त श्री गजानना सुन्दरमुख श्री गजानना सुन्दरमुख श्री गजानना प्रथम नमामि गजानना प्रथम नमामि गजानना ऋषिमुनिवन्दित गजानना ऋषिमुनिवन्दित गजानना गजानना ॐ गजानना गजानना ॐ गजानना गजानना ॐ गजानना गजानना ॐ गजानना गजानना साई गजानना गजानना साई गजानना ऋषिमुनिवन्दित गजानना ऋषिमुनिवन्दित गजानना हे ऋषिमुनिवन्दित गजानना ऋषिमुनिवन्दित गजानना सुन्दरमुख श्री गजानना एकदन्त श्री गजानना।
Om Shri Sai Ram. At the very outset, we place our reverential and loving pranams at Bhagawan's lotus feet, and we pray that his message and his grace showered on all of us. When the whole world is facing a severe pandemic situation, every devotee is involved in his own way in some sadhana. Some doing Vedam recitation, some reading Sai literature, some doing Sai service. In continuation of that, Sri Sathya Sai Seva organizations, Tamil Nadu state, thought let us use this online platform to again think about the message of Bhagawan and how in this free time we can self-introspect and become a better devotee and become more close to Bhagawan, not only near to Bhagawan but also dear to Bhagawan. In this endeavor, we requested the center, Sri Sathya Sai Center for Human Values at Prashanthi Nilayam, to help us out, and they have graciously accepted our request. And so we are going to have a 7-day series of self-enquiry on Bhagavad Gita in light of Bhagawan's teachings. So we will have the director of Sri Sathya Sai Center for Human Values, Sri Sudhir Bhaskar sir, and 2 resident faculty, Sri Amey, Deshpande and Sri Sai Giridhar, to conduct the 7-day proceedings. We thank them and we thank Bhagawan for this opportunity. Now I pass on the proceedings to Sri Sudhir Bhaskar sir. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, offering ourselves at thy divine lotus feet, Bhagawan, with a prayer to help us overcome the present crisis. Not only the people who are actually viewing this particular program, but every individual across the globe overcome and then come sail through very successfully. An experience which will allow us to introspect on what is the type of life we need to lead from now on. Thank you, Swami, for giving us this opportunity to be part of your mission in a small way, and bless all of us in our effort. Pranams to all the elders, Sairams to all my brothers and sisters, and my loving greetings to all the youngsters, boys and girls, who are currently live viewing this particular program and possibly will be viewing this particular program on Tamil Nadu website in the future days. I would like to thank the Sathya Seva organization Tamil Nadu for giving us this opportunity. Actually, we are grateful to the organization to giving us an opportunity to interact with all the devotees who are live and also in the future, to share some of our understanding based on our own effort, plus the grace of Bhagawan when he interacted with us on many occasions and gave clarity on various, what you can call, doubts we had. We all are very aware that Bhagavad Gita, which is one of the epics of this country and possibly the whole world, in terms of its age and in terms of its content, in terms of its validity, and it's transcendental in nature. The person who actually delivered this Gita, the Gita Acharya, talked to only one individual at that time, who was quite agitated and possibly did not retain everything, but subsequently somebody else, Gita Acharya, used as an instrument in making this particular document available, which was almost about 5,000 years back, close to it, 4,000 to 5,000 years. After that, almost in every century, you will find that somebody or other has given an understanding and interpretation of their own to this particular document. And especially 18th and 19th century, if you look at 20th century, there have been a lot of people and a lot of organizations which have come up talking about or no propagating this particular Gita. Our fortune is such that Gita Acharya was with us and is still with us and gave us such deep insights as a first person itself when he talked to us in a series of discourses he had given in 1984 in the month of August and September, which are about 34 discourses and they are available in a different compilation. Now the point is, irrespective of all the epics which are there, in whichever religion you talk about, the person who actually expounded it or enunciated or communicated never came back to give any more further clarifications. But it's our good fortune that we have that particular Gita Acharya in the form of Bhagawan Sri Sathya Baba, who came and spent time with us, trying individually and collectively to answer our own doubts in a way we can understand with current times. And that's what we call this particular document a living document, because every word which is there in that particular document is valid today. And in the same way, it is going to be valid for future. Every individual is going to read it, is going to be valid for them. With this particular introduction and expressing our gratitude to Bhagawan giving us an opportunity, I would like to invite Dr. Amey Deshpande, my colleague, to first initiate the first talk today, and possibly towards the end, maybe for a few minutes, I will also give my impression of the topic which is going to cover. Sai Ram. Amey Deshpande.
Offering our loving pranams at the divine lotus feet of our ever-present Swami and invoking his presence and his benediction on all of us. Most revered elders, dear brothers and sisters, a very loving Sairam to all of you, and welcome to this wonderful satsang, Bhagawan and Bhagavad Gita. To begin this session, I'd like all of you to close your eyes and let us all travel 5,000 years ago into the presence of the one and only Gita Acharya, our Sai Krishna. And let us all sing his praise to begin with. Mukunda Madhava Murali Manohara Govardhana Giridhari Gopi Pujita Manasa Chora Pitambaradhari Hari Mukunda Madhava Murali Manohara Govardhana Giridhari Gita Bodhaka Sai Sundara Gita Bodhaka Sai Sundara Vandita Hridaya Vihari Vandita Hridaya Vihari Vandita Hridaya Vihari Sai Vandita Hridaya Vihari. Gita Bodhaka Sai Sundara Vandita Hridaya Vihari. How beautiful is this Lord who has placed himself in our hearts and who speaks in the voice of the conscience. To begin, I'm reminded of one very beautiful analogy that Swami would often give in his discourses, wherein he would take the analogy that is there in the Kathopanishad. The entire Upanishad talks about, there is a beautiful analogy that is given to the chariot and our human body. The chariot is compared to the human body, the senses are compared to the horses, the reins is compared to the mind, and the charioteer is compared to the mind, to the buddhi, the intellect, and the rider is the Atman himself. In this Bhagavad Gita, the charioteer, the buddhi, is the Atman himself, our Atma Rama, our Atma Shama, who is speaking to us. I was thinking about how to introduce a topic which has been spoken by, which has been commented upon over centuries. In fact, there is no such person worth the salt, if we can call it that way, who has not given their commentary on the Gita. Whether it is Bala Gangadhar Tilak or Mahatma Gandhi, right up to Sri Shankaracharya, Adi Shankaracharya himself has given their commentaries on Bhagavad Gita. It is said that if you give a commentary on Bhagavad Gita, then you are a person of some stature in the spiritual field. Such is the magnitude, such is the giganticity of this document. And today we are going to dive a little deep. But what we have with us, as Professor Sudhir Bhaskar sir very beautifully said, is that we are going to only refer to what Swami himself, Gita Acharya himself, has referred to in two documents, namely Gita Vahini, which was written from February 1964 to May of 1966, about 27 months. Once again, a divine number, 27. 27 months, every month Swami gave one article to the Sanatana Sarthi, once again referring to Sanatana Sarthi as himself. To the magazine Sanatana Sarthi, Swami wrote 27 articles talking about Gita, and that is what has been compiled as Gita Vahini. So we will refer largely to Gita Vahini and also to the 34 discourses that Swami gave in 1984, starting from the 2nd of August up to the September of 16th September. We will refer to these two documents predominantly to cover all the topics that we will be over the next 1 week. So to begin with, why is the Bhagavad Gita so special? Why is it so special? Why has it etched itself in the consciousness of mankind, in the corpuscle of mankind itself? And why is it one document is, has been guiding all sorts of people? If you will notice, you have Bhagavad Gita for management, Bhagavad Gita for doctors, Bhagavad Gita for lawyers, Bhagavad Gita for politicians. Everybody in every field has taken this Gita and tried to apply it to their own situation. Bhagavad Gita for youth, Bhagavad Gita for children. You will come to know that every ashrama, every varna has referred to Bhagavad Gita in some way. And yet, Bhagavad Gita is over and above. It is beyond all of that. Such is the beauty of this document, that it can be applied to every situation and every circumstance of our life. So why is Bhagavad Gita so special? It is said that on the path to self-realization or to mukti or moksha, there are 3 documents in our Sanatana Dharma which are referred to as Prasthana Traya. We all know about the Prasthana Traya, namely the Upanishads, Brahma Sutras, and Bhagavad Gita. Now, Swami says that while the Brahma Sutras are Nyaya Prasthana and the Bhagavad Gita is Sadhana Prasthana, and the Upanishad are called Siddhanta Prasthana. What is the meaning of that? Let us first begin with Upanishads. Upanishad is considered to be Siddhanta Prasthana, which means it is the first amongst what is the axiomatic truths. Siddhanta means principles. So if you look at Upanishads will tell you what are the principles, the fundamental truths. They don't talk about any logic. They don't talk about, they are basically telling mankind that, oh mankind, oh man, sarvam kalvidam brahma, aham brahmasmi, tattvam asi. It simply, it quotes the truth and it leaves it over there. It simply says, this is the principle, take it or leave it. Meaning whether you, even if you leave it, it is still the truth. So it will not give you any logic which is associated. It will simply say, this is the truth. So that is why it is called Siddhanta Prasthana. Now, what gives logic to this Siddhanta Prasthana is the Brahma Sutras, which are called Nyaya Prasthana. Nyaya itself means logic, or the Tarka, which is associated with all of the arguments. So basically, Brahma Sutras talks about all the argumentation that is necessary. It logically, it builds up to why this principle is what, why it is, why this entire Brahman is what it is. Right? So it builds up through a logical understanding. So it is basically for the intellect to understand. And finally, you have Bhagavad Gita, which is called Sadhana Prasthana. So Swami refers, in fact, in Gita Vahini, Swami says, Bhagavad Gita doesn't not only tells you what is to be done, but how it is to be done is what Bhagavad Gita tells. And that is why it is the Sadhana Prasthana. How beautiful, isn't it? So while Brahma Sutras and Upanishad talks about what is to be done or what it is, Bhagavad Gita tells, okay, now that you know what it is, how it has to be done will be done through Bhagavad Gita. And that is why it is relevant and it is applicable to every circumstance and every situation of in our human lives. So that is why Bhagavad Gita is so special. Whenever we buy any device, whenever we buy any article, along with that article will come one paper. Sometimes it will be a big thick booklet, and sometimes it will just be a small paper. Anything, from a normal water bottle right up to your mobile phone or washing machine. It will give you something called a manual, user manual, isn't it? That user manual tells you all that is necessary for you to know about that particular document, that particular item. It will tell you how it is to be used, how not to be used, in what situations, in what temperature, etc., etc. Now the question is, for this particular, this device, this most ultimate device that has been given to us, which is our human body, where is the manual for it? Did it come along with a manual when we came out of our mother's womb? Did the mother or us, did we get a particular manual saying, this is how you should use it, this is how you should not use it? Right? This will be a question that comes. And the answer to that is the Bhagavad Gita is the manual for our human body and human mind. For this hardware, namely this human body and the mind, which is the software of this particular device, what is the manual? Bhagavad Gita is the manual for this human life, this human body and human mind. Now, how to study this Bhagavad Gita? Why it is so special? In the opening lines of the Gita Vahini, in fact, the very first chapter and the very first two lines of the Gita Vahini, Swami very clearly tells us how we should read the Gita. Right? Swami uses three terms. Swami says, before you take up the Gita Vahini, the very first line he says, there must be Pujya Bhavam, which means there must be a feeling of reverence. So we cannot use, the Bhagavad Gita as something while going to bed, like how we take a novel and we would use it to go to bed. No, there must be a Pujya Bhavam. There must be a feeling of reverence when we approach this document. Only then it will give us what we are expecting, what we need, what we want. And then he uses two, in the next line, he uses two words, which are very, very, two phrases, which are very beautiful. He says, one must have, a study of Bhagavad Gita must have Bahya Nirikshana and Bahiranga Parikshana. So he uses the two words Nirikshana and Parikshana. So what is the meaning of this? The Nirikshana refers to an attitude of patience, and Parikshana means an attitude of inquisitiveness. Now, if you look at these two terms, in fact, you will feel that these two terms are kind of opposite to each other, isn't it? On one side, Swami is asking us to have patience, and on other side, he is asking us to have inquisitiveness. Now, usually when there is inquisitiveness, we want to know. No, tell me, right? So there's a sense of impatience in it. And then when there is patience, usually we just sit back and we relax and the sense of inquisitiveness or urgency is not there in patience. But Swami is telling us that we have to have these two attitudes, Bahya Nirikshana and Bahiranga Parikshana, right? So we must have a sense of urgency, but at the same time, we must have a sense of patience, perseverance to go ahead and understand, go to the depth. So a cursory reading of Bhagavad Gita is not enough. We must be able to go into the depth of Gita. And we should have the patience and the perseverance to go into the depth. So that is another very special thing about the Gita. Now, let us move on to the next part, which is just imagine where the Gita was given. Just think about it. Usually when we look at all the other Upanishads, it is also a conversation between the Guru and the Shishya. For example, you have Nachiketa and Yama, you have Uddalaka and Shvetaketu, okay, and here you have Arjuna and Krishna. And the feeling that we get is whenever there is a dialogue between a Guru and Shishya, it should either be on the banks of a river, or it should be on the mountain top, or it should be in a beautiful palace, or it should be in a hermitage, etc., etc. But how incredible is this setting of Bhagavad Gita that it happens in the middle of the battlefield. Probably the most bloodiest place on earth, possibly a place where you cannot think of anything other than death and dying. Who is going to kill and who is going to be killed? These are the only thoughts which are predominant. And in such a place was chosen by the Lord to deliver the ultimate treatise of human mankind. How incredible is that? And there is a very beautiful situation that happens. Arjuna is standing, in the Pandavas side on the, the array of all the Pandavas, Drishtadyumna and Abhimanyu and all of the Maharathis are standing. And on the other side are the brilliant array of all the Kauravas, Bhishma, Drona, Krupacharya, and then you have Ashwathama, and then of course you have Duryodhana, Dushasana, Shakuni and all of that. And then Arjuna says, "Oh Krishna, take my chariot to the middle of the battlefield. Let me see, let me monitor, let me examine closely who is the one who has the guts to stand and fight against us." That is the confidence of Arjuna. So it starts like that. Now what Krishna does is, see, now the Lord knows that this is the time that I'm supposed to give the ultimate, guidance to mankind. So what Krishna does? He doesn't go and park the chariot in front of Duryodhana. He goes and parks the chariot in front of Bhishma and Drona because he knows that the moment Arjuna sees Bhishma and Drona, that Gandiva, the bow of Arjuna, is going to slip away. Because if he would have possibly parked the chariot in front of Duryodhana and Dushasana, that anger would have not, allowed him to kind of, feel this Vishada Yoga. So see how the Lord is also very, very intelligent, that, he parked the chariot. He says, "Oh yes, I will do it. But you didn't tell me where to park the chariot. So I am going to take the chariot now and I will park it where I want to park it." Right? Exactly like that, the Lord does even with our own lives. You see, successes and failures are given to us only to park our chariot, namely this body mind, in front of what is going to be a failure for us. Because it is only in the light of failure, and Swami refers to this in Gita Vahini when he says that a Vishada Yoga is necessary for Gita, right? It is only in the face of a failure that Gita you become qualified for Gita. So the starting step is a failure in our life, right? Or this kind of despondency that comes. The trials and tribulations only make us qualified to get Gita, to understand Gita, right? Where we are able to go to the Nirikshana and the Parikshana, the patience and the inquisitiveness. Why is this happening to me? No, how am I supposed to go past these? Only when these questions come, then only we take the Gita Charya seriously. And therefore, Krishna takes and parks the chariot in front of Bhishma and Drona. And the moment Arjuna sees Bhishma and Drona, all despondency overcomes. He says, "Oh my God, what am I going to do?" Now you see, in this, there is also one thing that we must be able to understand, and that is the confidence of Arjuna. See, all of us, most people talk about Arjuna in a very light way. Oh, the fellow had despondency. But that despondency is also not coming out of fear of death. His despondency is coming out of the fact that he has the confidence of overcoming these Bhishma and Drona. No, he says, these people are going to die at my hands. And I don't want to do this. Oftentimes when we approach a despondency, we do it out of fear of failure. Arjuna is not doing it out of fear of failure. He's doing it out of the fear of success. He knows that he has the capability to vanquish this force, however great a force may be. Such was Arjuna. Such was the class of Arjuna. That is why he is called Narottama. If Lord is called Purushottama, Arjuna is called Narottama because he is the greatest among all men. And that is also what qualifies him to receive the Gita. Right? So that is one thing so beautiful. And one of the beautiful things when we think about this whole location of the battlefield of the Kurukshetra is what comes to our mind when Swami very beautifully and very succinctly Swami puts the entire thing in one simple succinct sentence. He says, "O Partha, have your hands in the society and your head in the forest." If there is one thing that we can take away, Ma Manusmara Yuddhacha, think of me and fight this battle. Swami very beautifully puts it as hands in the society while head should be in the forest. Right? What he basically is telling Arjuna throughout the length and breadth of Gita is simply keep your head in the forest while your hands are busy in society. So where Karma Marga also comes, Karma Yoga also comes, hands in the society refers to Karma Yoga and head in the forest refers to Jnana Yoga. Right? And the culmination of these two is what is Bhakti Yoga. Okay. Now the next question that one may think about is, why was Arjuna only the qualified candidate for receiving Bhagavad Gita? And more importantly, the question that comes to my mind, a stupid, foolish mind like mine is, Swami, why did you preach to the converted? Arjuna was anyway a good man. You should have actually given Bhagavad Gita to Duryodhana, right? Why did you give it to Arjuna? If there was one, candidate, if there was one fellow whose mind really had to be transformed, really had to be converted into and put some sense into that durbuddhi of anyone, it was Duryodhana, because he was the one who is the cause of all of this. Why didn't you tell Duryodhana this Bhagavad Gita? Why did you tell Arjuna? Right? And that is, of course, this stupid thought comes to only stupid people, manda buddhi like us. That Swami, you simply went and told, even in this Kali Yuga, all good people only you called around yourself and you gave discourses to them only. We like to believe that we are Arjuna. We like to believe that we are, good people, and that is why we got attracted to Swami. Okay. So you know what? Krishna did try to do it. Krishna did try to tell this Gita to Arjuna, to Duryodhana. He tried to knock some sense into this mind of Duryodhana. And it happened when he went as the peace ambassador to Hastinapur. Just before the war broke out, Krishna had gone as the peace ambassador to Hastinapur. And during one of the days before the final day when he entered, he saw Duryodhana walking in the corridor. He was also taking an evening walk or a morning walk. I am not so sure which walk. But during one of the walks, he confronts Duryodhana and he tells Duryodhana, "What are you doing, Duryodhana? Don't you know that whatever you have done is absolutely adharma?" And Duryodhana gives one of the most classiest statements, which Swami used to often refer to in his discourses. In fact, Duryodhana says to Krishna, he says, "Janami dharmam nachame pravritti, janami adharmam nachame nivrutti, kenapi devena hridastithena, yatha niyoktosmi tatha karomi." Duryodhana says a statement. He says, "Oh Krishna, before you start your Gita, 1 second, let me tell you, janami dharmam. Okay, I know what is dharma. I have also gone to university. I have also got a postgraduate degree. Okay, I also went to Dronacharya's university and I also learned what Pandavas learned. Okay, which is janami dharmam, but nachame pravritti. I have no inclination towards that. Janami adharmam. I know what is adharma also. Nachame nivrutti. I don't feel like giving it up. And then he says, Kenapi devena hridastitena yatha niyoktosmi tatha karomi. He says, there is some God which is, he says, Kenapi devenes. There is some God which is hridastitena, who is sitting in my heart. Yatha niyoktosmi tatha karomi. However, that God tells me, I do like that only. Okay, and that is where the Gita ended for Duryodhana, because he was actually standing face to face with the Lord himself. But he's telling, I don't want to listen to this outside Lord. There is some God sitting inside my heart. I will listen to only him. And that is where it ended. And that is why the Gita was not given to Duryodhana. Now, what we must understand, Swami tells us in the Gita Vahini, in the second chapter, that Arjuna also goes through a similar circumstance, right? In fact, the entire Gita, the Lord doesn't open his mouth in the first chapter at all. In the first chapter, he doesn't open his mouth at all. He's simply listening to what Arjuna has to say. And Arjuna is also giving him some kind of logic. He's telling, how to fight, etc., etc. So much argumentation, basically one after the other, and they are all pretty logical. Huh? If one were to listen to those statements of Arjuna, they sound absolutely logical. Okay, so they are, the whole logic is, why should I be fighting? What is there in it for me? It is better to go to the forest or better to go to a mountain and do penance rather than fight this battle. Okay, and Krishna doesn't open his mouth at all until the beginning of the second chapter. In fact, Shankara Bhashya, Adi Shankaracharya, doesn't even consider it good enough to give commentary on those first chapter. It is said that Shankara Bhashya, the commentary of Shankaracharya, starts from the 10th verse of the second chapter, because he did not even consider it in his syllabus to speak about, why should I give commentary on what Sanjaya and Dhritarashtra and Arjuna are telling? I will give commentary only on what the Lord tells. And therefore, Shankara Bhashya, in fact, starts with the 10th verse of the second chapter. Of course, our Swami, our good Lord, he gave us enough commentary, or he gave us enough clarification on the first chapter, right? So coming to the point that even Arjuna also went through a similar dilemma that Duryodhana. Of course, Duryodhana did not even have a dilemma, right? He simply brushed aside any dilemma because he was not ready to listen to his conscience. He was ready to listen to his mind. Okay, and that is why Arjuna becomes qualified for it. Now, the other question will be, why was Bhishma not given the Gita? Bhishma was also a great intellectual. He was also a great devotee of the Lord, and he was standing on the wrong side of the battle. Why was Bhishma not given? Right? Swami talks about why Bhishma was also not given. Why Yudhishthira, Dharmaja? Why Dharmaja, who was who understood all the nuances of dharma, right? Who was probably the greatest of Pandavas when it came to understanding the subtleties of Manu Dharma, right? Why even he was not given? Then Swami goes on to explain why Arjuna is the right candidate. And Swami says that, amongst the many qualifications of Arjuna, one of the things that was the greatest qualification for Arjuna is that he was a friend. He was predominantly and primarily a friend of Krishna. See, in the Navavida Bhakti, it starts with Shravanam, Mananam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Vandanam, Archanam, Dasyam, and one before the penultimate stage, the penultimate in the Navavida Bhakti, the eighth, is what is called Sathyam or Sneham. And that refers to one becoming a friend of the Lord, right? And Gopikas are considered to be the highest examples of Sneham when it comes to that kind of bhakti. But Arjuna also falls to an extent in that category, where because he had that friendship with the Lord was not just his, not just his brother-in-law. It was not just, he was not just his an ally in the battle. He was not just his, God or his guru, but he was also a friend. And Swami explains why that friendship is so necessary. He said, this is a samvada. If you look at Gita, Gita was a conversation. Now, if it was a guru and a disciple, the disciple sometimes may not have the courage to ask the right questions of a guru. But if it becomes, and that is why Swami often says, don't walk in front of me, I may not follow you. Don't walk behind me, I may not lead you. Walk side by side, be my companion on this path. Why? Because he wants us to be a friend of his. He wants us to have that kinship with him. He wants us to have build that kind of relationship. Bhagavan, you are my everything. You be my friend. In a friendship, then we can have a conversation, right? It is only in that atmosphere of a friendship where we can have a back and forth with Bhagavan. Swami, why is this happening? And Arjuna was able to ask the right kind of questions. And that is why all mankind's doubts have been resolved in the Bhagavad Gita, because Arjuna had that ability to ask the right questions. Possibly Bhishma, when he looked at Krishna, he always thought of him as the Lord, and therefore he may not be able to ask the right questions, right? And also Bhishma's intellect was clouded, right? He himself says at the end that when all the blood goes out from his body, he says, now my blood is purified, now my mind is purified. Then that is how he gave Vishnu Sahasranama to entire mankind, right? So even his intellect was clouded, whereas Arjuna's intellect was absolutely fine until, of course, the first chapter it is clouded. But as Bhagavan says, the moment he says these beautiful statements, it is in the 7th verse of the 2nd chapter when Arjuna says, Shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. The moment he says that I am your shishya, make me your shishya, please take me as your disciple. From then onwards, Krishna says, abhi bacha aa gaya tu patri par. Oh, now my child, now you have come as a, because till then, Krishna also doesn't open his mouth, because he says, okay, you make your arguments, you make your logic, you tell me what you have in mind, I will simply listen. But the moment Arjuna says, just like, the same thing he says, I don't know what is right or wrong. I don't know what I am thinking. Right? Oh Madhava, oh Keshava, make me your disciple. Right? The moment he says, make me your disciple, then Krishna says, come on, now I will be the charioteer of your chariot. Right? So that is why the second thing which made Arjuna qualified to receive is the process of prapanna, which is surrender. Only when we surrender our intellect, when we surrender our mind, then we become qualified to receive this Bhagavad Gita. And the third thing that Swami often tells in his discourses is the concept of Purva Tapam versus Paschat Tapam. Why Dharmaja was not qualified to receive the Gita was because in every stage, Yudhishthira had the quality of Paschat Tapam, which is repentance. After a thing has happened, then he will repent. For example, look at the game of dice. While he was playing the game of dice, he did not think. Right? He put everything, he gambled everything away. He gambled his brothers. He, in fact, even gambled himself and then even his wife. And it was only after the game of dice that he had Paschatapam. Oh, why did I do that? Whereas Swami says that kind of an attitude will not serve us, it will not take us too far in the process of our spiritual journey. What is necessary for us is to have Purva Tapam, which means we should be able to foresee what is going to happen. Right? Before we take up any decision, especially such an important decision of our life, right? We must be able to have that foresight. We must be able to look into the future and think. Instead of brooding over the past, we must be in the present and we should be able to think about what are the ramifications of my decisions. And I think this is a very, very important thing for all of us. Swami often tells us, if you cannot oblige, speak obligingly. Because speaking obligingly will never put us in trouble. Right? Think about what are the ramifications of the words that are going to come. Before we utter some unnecessary words, what are the ramifications? Right? That foresight must be there. So even in our thoughts, in our deeds, and in our words, right? As much as possible, if we can have Purva Tapam, that will give us the qualification to receive this Bhagavad Gita. So these are the qualifications. Number 1, become a friend. Number 2, surrender, prapannam. And number 3, have that the quality of Purva Tapam. So now let's move on. Swami, in fact, even in the Gita Vahini, he says that it is only after this part, from the 11th verse onwards, that Lord Krishna starts to explain. So till now, this was all, the build up to what exactly is special about Gita. Now let us actually jump into the matter per se. Let us take up the first chapter and what Swami has to say, and we will try and do the first and the second chapter today. And in the first four chapters of Gita Vahini, Swami has spoken to a large extent about the first and the second chapter. So we will try and now dive into what are the actual teachings of the first and the second chapter. If you notice that every chapter of Bhagavad Gita in the original Sanskrit ends with the following words. It says at the end of every chapter, it will say Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade, followed by which the particular chapter name will come. Whether it is Arjuna Vishada Yoga Nama, Sampurnam, like that it will come. Now let us think about these first few words, which are very, very beautiful. Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su, that is the name of the document. What is it? It is Upanishad Su. And what is its purpose? Brahma Vidyayam. So the purpose of, and in fact Swami starts with this, he says that the purpose of Bhagavad Gita is not to make Arjuna fight. Okay, the Lord will not, in fact, I heard about this, that a lot of people who don't belong to the Sanatana Dharma and who have this crooked buddhi, they think that this Bhagavad Gita, what kind of a document it is, it is prodding someone to battle. What is the difference between jihad and this then? If it is Krishna, the Lord is prodding someone for battle. Go fight, go kill. This is only when you have crooked buddhi, and that is why it was very important to know what is the objective of Gita. The objective of Gita is Upanishadsu, Brahma Vidyayam, Yoga Shastre, Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade. That is what is the crux of the Bhagavad Gita. And that is why it starts also very beautifully with the following words. Swami, often we have heard him say this in his discourses. This first word of Gita, right? Chapter 1, verse 1. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha. Mamaka pandavas chaiva kima kurvata sanjaya. Right? And Swami says the very first word is Dharma kshetre. So the first word is Dharma. And if one were to look at the 700th verse, which is 18th chapter, last verse, it will say, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara, Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhutir, Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. And Swami would often say that the whole crux of the Bhagavad Gita is to take the last word and to take the first word and put them together and say, Mama Dharma. What is my duty? What is my Dharma? And Swami says in the Gita Vahini, remember Dharma, practice Dharma. That is in four simple words or three simple words, two of which repeat, which is Dharma. Remember Dharma, practice Dharma. Remember Dharma, practice Dharma. This is the crux of what Bhagavad Gita is all about. So I was just thinking that we have love all, serve all, we have help ever, hurt never. Like that, for all spiritually minded, for our spiritual wing of the Sathya Sai organization, we should have this, which is Mama Dharma. Remember Dharma, practice Dharma. This is what Bhagavad Gita is all about. In fact, we don't need the rest of the 7 days, if I can put it that way. Because it is all about, the Lord is telling us about what is my duty, how should I understand this, right? And in one of the discourses, Swami very beautifully, he says, when all of us are born, we have Dharma Kshetra, it's a very beautiful, the mind is absolutely pure, though there are vasanas, but it is mostly pure. When we are born, we are Dharma Kshetra. As our life progresses, as the years of life progresses, it becomes Kurukshetra, right? As we keep getting this worldly knowledge, okay, our mind keeps going outward, and the whole process of Gita, what Gita is telling us, to go back from Kurukshetra to Dharma Kshetra, right? The transformation of our lives from Kurukshetra to Dharma Kshetra is what Gita is all about. And all our spiritual sadhana and seva and bhajans and japa and dhyana, whatever we do is only to take us from Kurukshetra to Dharma Kshetra. In a sense, what we are going through right now is Kurukshetra outside, right? And so the government and everybody is telling us, hey, come back to Dharma Kshetra, you be at home, you go inward, right? When you cannot go out, you come inward, right? So Basically, what the entire process of our spiritual sadhana is to go from Kurukshetra to Dharmakshetra. The second part is Upanishad. So, what is the meaning of this Upanishad? There's a beautiful, in the Gita Dhyana Shloka, there is a very beautiful verse which goes something like Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogdha Gopala Nandana, right? Partho Vatsaha Sudhir Bhoktaha Dugdham Gitamritam Mahat. Right? He says if Arjuna was the calf and all the Upanishads are the cows, then our Lord Gopal Nandana is the cowherd who is squeezing and bringing us the essence. So all the Upanishads essence is in this Bhagavad Gita, right? The very first chapter we said was Vishada Yoga. Unless we have that Vishada, unless we have that despondency towards this external world, unless we have this feeling of detachment, of Vairagya, we cannot get the crux of Bhagavad Gita. That is what this first chapter tells. In fact, it lays down very, very clearly what is the despondency of Arjuna, right? And the despondency of Arjuna, you see, is shown in two ways. One is Mamaka Pandavas Chaiva. When Dhritarashtra says, in fact, in the very first verse, the entire problem of Gita is shown. Why Gita is necessary? Because he says, Mamakaha Pandavas Chaiva. Dhritarashtra is telling that, tell me, O Sanjaya, in this Dharmakshetra, Kurukshetra, where are my people and where are Pandavas' people? You see, therein lies the very crux of. So the entire problem of the Gita, the problem statement is defined in the very first. He says, Mamakara, where are my people and where are Pandavas' people? This is the problem. Ahamkara and Mamakara are the two fundamental causes of all the problems in this world, right? Now, even Arjuna also falls in the same boat. His only point is, how can I kill my own people? This is my own grandfather. This is my own teacher. This is my own preceptor. How can I kill my people? Right? So basically the first chapter, and Swami also in the Gita Vahini, he says that this is the problem. What is mine? What is thine? This mine and thine is the fulcrum or is the fundamental problem of all of Gita. So this is how he talks about the first chapter, right? So all the time, remember dharma, practice dharma is what basically Mama Dharma talks about. And in fact, that is where our problem comes, isn't it? We don't know which is my dharma. When I am in the office, what should be my dharma? When I am in home, what is my dharma? Because we are constantly wearing several caps, right? We are wearing sometimes the cap of a husband, a mother, a father, a son, a brother-in-law, right? All the time we are wearing these different caps, sometimes subordinate, sometimes superiors, right? In the organization now, Swami has given us some more caps to wear, no? Coordinator, district president, state president, okay, Bhajan Samiti convener, all sorts of caps. Swami has also put us in that Kurukshetra only, right? And he's asking us to see, hey, see who all are there in front of you, right? And so then this despond, oh, these are my people, these are not my people, right? So this is our problem. And that is what Swami refers to in the second chapter as what is Swadharma and what is Atma Dharma, right? So in fact, as Swami says, Krishna became the teacher. Now this teacher, no, he was not beating around the bush. This teacher didn't believe in beating around the bush. Okay, he didn't tell the 18 chapters to say, let me see how much usko main, how much can I extend this. In fact, the second chapter is the longest chapter, and that is 72 shlokas are there in this chapter. Out of the 700 shlokas of Bhagavad Gita, if you think about it, 72 are only in the second chapter, which means 10% of entire Bhagavad Gita is only in the second chapter. Come to think about it. And in these 72 chapters, he actually completed the syllabus. Whatever Krishna wanted to tell was told in the second chapter. There is, Raja Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, everything is there in the second chapter. The ultimate Brahma Vidyayam that he is talking about is there in the second chapter. Okay, so Krishna was almost like saying, boss, I will tell you everything now, here and now, finished. Okay, if you have doubts, you ask me doubts. Okay, and so the remaining 16 chapters are nothing but a clarification of the second chapter. And Swami also tells that the rest of the chapters were not necessary. If Arjuna was very, very intelligent, with the second chapter, it would be over. But for our sake, for the rest of mankind, Krishna delineated on what was told in the second chapter. So that is how important second chapter is, in which he actually talks. Swami, in fact, refers to the 38th verse. Okay, and the 38th verse is something that Swami would often come to again and again. Some, sukha dukkhe same kritva labha labha jaya jayo. How many times we have heard Swami telling about this, isn't it? That the ultimate thing is sukha dukkhe same kritva. Whether it is pain or pleasure, joy or sorrow, failure or success, whatever comes, same kritva. In sukha or dukkha. And Swami refers to this 38th verse. And he says that is what our dharma is, to do our job and to leave the rest, to be equanimous about the rest. In the 47th verse, we have the very famous verse which is Karamanyevadhikaraste Ma Phaleshu Kadachana, also comes in the second chapter. And that we will take up tomorrow when we talk about the path of action. And Swami beautifully talks about why it is Ma Phaleshu and not Na Phaleshu. Okay, this insight only Bhagawan can give. Okay, only someone who has given the original text can tell you why he didn't use the word na and why he used the word ma. So that we will discuss tomorrow. Okay, so I'm just giving you a tidbit. I'm giving you a sneak peek into tomorrow's session also. In the 48th verse, he is talking about samatvam yoga muchyate, right? Which is how equanimous. So all of these, some of the most beautiful verses that we always quote come in the second chapter. In the 50th verse is the famous word yogaha karmasu kaushalam. That comes also in the 50th verse. In the 54th verse onwards was where I remember very fondly in the 1990s, early 90s, when always students would come to Mandir on Thursdays, or I was a primary school boy at that time, and we would come on Thursdays and Sundays in the morning, and Swami would come and Swami will simply look at all the students and say, 12th chapter. Okay, and all of us will start. Evam satata yukta bhaktas tvam paryupasati. Of course, we never understood the meaning of that, but we just chanted it. And then some days Swami will come and say, 15th chapter. So that would start. And sometimes, in fact, one of the favorite chapters of Bhagawan was the second chapter. Second chapter, in fact, would start from the 54th verse to the 72nd verse. So I remember always chanting whenever he will come and say, Sankhya Yogam Chepandi. Samkhya Yoga means we will all start. Sthita prajnascha kavasha samadhischascha keshava. It will start with that only. And I used to wonder, in fact, because I had not learned Bhagavad Gita at that time, I used to wonder that this is where the second chapter starts. But for Swami, this was the most important verse from the 54th verse onwards, because he is talking about what is the ultimate. After doing all our spiritual sadhana, what is the end point? Right? We always want a benchmark. We want some kind of a dashboard, right? All of us management people out there, we want to know how we are doing, right? And that is exactly the question that Arjuna asks of Krishna. He says, okay, tell me, fine, I understood all of this. Tell me, what is a person who has already reached that ultimate stage? What does he look like? So that I will know whom to get attracted to. Can you explain to me, how does he sit? How does he walk? How does he speak? Right? And that is the question that Arjuna is asking. Sthita prajnascha, one who is in the steady wisdom. Sthita prajna means the one who is having steady wisdom, right? The one who is the realized soul, a jnani. How does he look like? How does he sit, right? And from there onwards starts the description of Sthita prajna, which is a beautiful, very, very dear to Bhagawan. And so I will just wrap up now, because we will be discussing what is the Sthita prajna over the next few days. So we will not go too much into the depths of that right now. But I will only talk about two beautiful verses that Swami would often talk about, and that was the 62nd and the 63rd verse. And I think in the history of all philosophy, there cannot be two better verses which actually very, very logically explains why we reach this position of where we are. What is the crux of all the problems in the world? In the 62nd and 63rd verse of the second chapter, it starts with, I'm sure we all know about it. Dhyayato vishaha punsaha sangasteshu upajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kama krodho vijayate krodhat bhavati sammoha sammoha smriti vibramaha smriti brahma buddhi nasho buddhi nashat pranashyati. In these two verses, the Lord very beautifully explains what is the problem, why we are in this Kurukshetra. Why does our life become Kurukshetra? And Swami also refers to this. He says, Dhyayato Vishaha Punsaha. The moment our attention goes on Vishayaha, which is all outward, the moment it goes on the world, that's where it starts. Right? So the Bahir Mukhata, the Bahya Mukhata has to convert itself into Antar Mukhata to go inwards. And that is all that Gita is trying to tell us. From Kurukshetra to Dharmakshetra. What is our Dharma? To move from outward to inward. Right? And in these two he says, so what happens when we move from Dhyayato Vishaha Punsa, Sangasteshu Upajayate? The moment we get attracted by the worldly, the things around us, then we get an attraction. Sangha, Dhyayato Vishaha Punsa, Sangasteshu Upajayate. We want to have some association with it. Right? And that is the problem. Right? Then what happens? Sangat Sanjayate Kama. The moment we want to have association, then we get attraction towards it. Right? Sanjayate Kama, Kama Krodho Vijayate. So it gets converted into a Kama, and when this Kama is not fulfilled, then Krodhat, we get angry. Then the moment you get angry, Krodhat Bhavati Sammoha. Sammoha is some kind of mesmerizing. We don't think, oftentimes, right, it happens to us that we get angry, and after the bout of anger, we wonder, Are yaar, why I was saying this? Because during when we were getting angry, our cortisol in our bloodstream was kicking in so much that our buddhi was not working. Right? So Kanam Krodhat Bhavati Sammoha, Sammoha Smriti Vibrama. We forget who we are. We forget what we are. We start behaving like an animal. And then Smriti Brahma Buddhi Nasho. Here is where our intellect goes. And the moment our intellect goes, we no more are human beings. We become an animal, and therefore Pranashyati. So it all begins with, a very beautiful problem statement that the Lord is saying. It starts with Dhyayato Vishaha Punsaha. That is where we have to. And in fact, I'm reminded of a very beautiful incident that happened. Those were the days when the Prashanthi Nilayam campus was not there, and only the Brindavan campus was there. This was in the 1970s. And all the students would come from Brindavan campus, from Brindavan, they would come to Prashanthi for all the festivals. And oftentimes they will come for the festival and they will live with Bhagawan for 1 month, 1.5 months, especially October, November. They will all come for Dasara, and from Dasara they will stay right up to the end of birthday. So Diwali and everything will be with Bhagawan. And after birthday, then Swami will tell all the boys, okay, now you all go home. You go back to your campus. Of course, there was no campus. There was only one campus at that time. Go back to Vrindavan. And boys would be extremely sad that after 1.5 months, we are leaving Bhagwan, going back. Now, this was an incident that was narrated to me by a very senior functionary who was with Bhagwan that day. So what would happen is all the boys would sit in the bus, and all the buses would be near the Gopuram. All the buses will stand near Gopuram, and from Gopuram gate, they will all go back. And Swami was with Kasturi Garu in the interview room, and all the boys, as the buses will leave the Gopuram road, everybody will shout, Jai Bolo Bhagwan Shri Satya Sai Baba Ji Ki, and so Swami was able to hear it sitting in the interview room. Okay. And everybody knew that all the boys are leaving. It was afternoon time. And Swami was in a very, very sullen. He was in a very somber mood. He was not smiling. He was not his usual blissful self. He was in a very sullen mood. He was just sitting down like this, and Kasturi Garu, who was, with him, he told Swami, he felt that Swami was feeling somber. So he said, Swami, don't worry, boys will come back. Because how the mother feels when the child leaves it and goes. So he felt Swami was feeling that pang. So he said, Swami, don't worry, Swami. Very soon for Sankranti, they will come back. For Christmas, they will come back. Don't worry. He was trying to pacify Bhagwan, and Bhagwan said, I am not sad that they are leaving me and going. I am only sad that for this last 1.5 months, I ensured that their single pointed attention was on me. Now they are going back into this world and their attention will get diverted into this world. And that is not good for their spiritual progress. That is why I'm feeling sad. Every time I hear this, I get very emotional, because the Satya Sai Seva organization, all of Swami's institutions were only established for us to have our concentration on him, right? The Saturday, Sundays that we look forward to, these satsangs that we look forward to, is only to ensure that we are focused completely on Bhagawan, because that is good for us. That Bahya Mukata is converting itself to Antar Mukata. The moment we go back into this world, Dhyayato Vishaha Punsaha Sangasteshu Pajayati. Ho gaya apna beda par. The moment we start going back into this world, what Bhagavan wants to do, what wants us to do, is see him in everybody outside. See him in the work that we are doing. Right? That is why he's telling us, Ma Manusmara Yuddhacha. Yes, that is a yuddha out there. That is a battlefield out there. You think of me. You make me a part of every activity that you do. That is how you will be able to make duty as God and work as worship. Right? And towards the end, in the 69th verse, and with this I will finish, there's a very beautiful explanation that Swami gives, because Krishna says the one who is an enlightened being, a sthita prajna, is someone, he describes him as Ya Nisha Sarva Bhutanam Tasyam Jagrati Sanyami Yasyam Jagrati Bhutani Sa Nisha Pashyato Munehe. He says the one who is awake while everybody else is sleeping, and the one who is asleep while everyone is awake. Okay, and Swami very beautifully, and I would like to quote Bhagawan here straight away, because nothing better than his own words. So I'm actually using Gita Vahini. It's right next to me. Right? So I will just quote Bhagawan when he says, the literal meaning of this is that what is night for one is day for the other. But that would sound absurd. Right? And so Swami is giving the clarification. He says, the inner meaning of this statement is very profound. The ordinary men are vigilant in the affairs that concern the senses that arise out of this world. Wakefulness for them is the case they bestow on worldly pursuits. So when everybody else is awake, that is, when a person is in worldly pursuits, the sthita prajna is asleep, because he is asleep to all the worldly pursuits. Right? Sthita prajna is one who is awake when everyone else is asleep. And he says, as long as we have deha sthitam, right? As long as we have body consciousness, the sthita prajna is asleep. He is asleep to all the body consciousness. When it comes to atma sthitam, when it comes to all the affairs of the Atman, then he is the most awake while everybody else is asleep. And it is to wake us up from this slumber that the Lord comes again and again to remind us that, oh man, you are not this ordinary body mind. You are the ultimate. So this is where we will end this satsang today. I will request Sudhir Bhaskar sir to give his closing thoughts before we wrap up today.
Sai Ram. Thank you, Amey, for a lovely exposition on chapter 1 and 2, and also the importance of chapter 2, as Swami has said, and you have beautifully mentioned. Everything which a person needs to know is given in this particular chapter. And other 16 chapters are only giving more details. And on that alone, I think, what Shankara has written is to amplify it further so that people can understand based on time changes which took place. I'm just reminded of one particular incident or one dialogue which took place between Bhishma and also Duryodhana when the chariot of Arjuna was passing and stood at a particular point in a place, and the dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna was taking place. Duryodhana was very, very itching so that the war can get over fast. And the way it can get over fast is, start the war, and with Bhishma, Dronacharya and others, it's a question of matter of couple of hours. Maybe by the end of the day, the whole war will be over. And that was his confidence. So he was saying that why are we just talk? Let's start. He was brought in the Bhishmacharya too, so that he can play his conch starting the war. This is the most important point, which statement which Bhishma says to Duryodhana. He says, Look, the Lord of the universe is saying something which is important to Arjuna, and I'm not able to hear it. I am praying to the Varuna, the wind god, so that one word, just one word of what Krishna is uttering to Arjuna, let that one word just float and come and fall in my ear. That one word, I'm sure, is going to get me my moksha. One word. And this is what Bhishma is talking about. And you know who Bhishma is? How well what type of scholar he was. He says that because he was a student of both Vasishtha as well as Parshurama. So he learned everything. So he is saying that one word is what I'm looking for. So you can just imagine in this 18 chapters, 700 slokas, every word, every sloka has that potency to give us what information which is needed for our own spiritual development, spiritual growth. I always say this as an example. When you have a circle, which is the starting point? Anywhere. But you have to transgress the whole path to reach the particular point again. In the same way, start and listen. What appeals to you? Practice that particular single word, single statement, single action, single purpose for which you are. And that is the one which is going to give us our pathway to our moksha. And with this, I think now there are many more things, as you discuss further, many more examples will come up and many more interactions which I've had with Swami will come up, which we will share with you as and when we make a progress. Of course, one point which I'll just like to say, which will come up tomorrow is, when you say from desire you come to anger, when desires are not fulfilled, you get into anger. And he also talks about how that particular thing can be mitigated. And Swami in another discourse was telling us, our interaction which we had in the interview room was mentioning a concept and something which all of us know, which is about Purusharthas. So we'll discuss about this also tomorrow when Amey is going to speak on chapter 2. I would like to just make an announcement for all those who have been listening. We would like to encourage you to ask us questions. I mean, you can make your observations, you can make your comments, but more important would be what we would be interested in. If you have any questions or clarification you want, you can use the YouTube's chat and message area and give us the particular your doubts, and we'll collate it. And tomorrow, during the talk or subsequently at the end, we'll try to provide clarifications to some of those questions. Sairam. We'll end with Om Shanti 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 3 times and Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Okay. Oh.
Sairam, sir. Before we end, I request all of us to close our eyes.
Yeah, sorry.
And let us all take this opportunity to radiate our love and our energy to all those who are currently fighting this health crisis, all the patients, their family members, the doctors, the nurses and all the paramedic staff, all of the people who are working so hard to make our lives as comfortable, the administrators, all of the people who are working so hard to ensure that life moves on as normally as possible. Let us send our energy, let us send our love to all of them, and also to all the devotees who will be facing a few hardships over the next few days in Chennai, Madurai, Coimbatore. We all pray that everyone around the world enjoys good health, because as Swami says, sound body is necessary for a sound mind, and sound mind is necessary for a sound body. Let us call upon Bhagavan's grace and his power on all of us. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Samastaloka
Sukhino bhavantu. Samastaloka Sukhino bhavantu. Samastaloka Sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य बाबा जी की जय।
सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय।
ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्।